Courtney Hadwin was born on May 6, 2004, in Heselden, a small village in County Durham, England. From the very beginning, music was woven into the fabric of her life. Her parents, Marie and Paul Hadwin, were hardworking people who always made time to nurture their daughter's passion. When Courtney was still very young, her mother would play records from established soul artists around the house, and little Courtney would absorb every note. By the age of 3, she was already dancing with her hands raised in the air whenever music filled the room, her tiny feet finding the rhythm instinctively. Her parents adored watching her spontaneous performances, sensing even then that their daughter possessed something rare. When Courtney turned 8, her school introduced singing lessons, and her music teacher immediately recognized an angelic tone and an unusual depth of voice that were extraordinary for someone so young. She was encouraged to join the school choir, and weekly rehearsals in the school hall helped her grow more confident with each song she performed. Her classmates nicknamed her Rock Her Girl, after watching her sing and dance simultaneously on stage during school assemblies. She was never shy, never hesitant. Performing before a crowd felt as natural to her as breathing. She took her craft seriously, too, practicing vocal scales in front of her bedroom mirror early in the mornings and writing her own lyrics even at that tender age, determined to grow into the singer she knew she could become. At the age of 10, Courtney took her passion a step further by forming a neighborhood music group with local children. They called themselves Durham Soul, and their parents rallied behind them, contributing money to purchase guitars and drums. Small crowds would gather to watch them perform, and the community began to take notice of a young girl leading the group with a voice far beyond her years. A reporter from a local newspaper wrote a short feature about her, headlining it, "A Young Girl Brings Soul to County Durham." That article meant everything to her family and gave Courtney a powerful reason to believe her voice truly mattered to the world beyond her street. Determined to sharpen her skills further, Courtney enrolled at Shotton Hall Theater School, where her mother and Marie drove her every weekend without fail. Her music teacher there worked with her on phrasing, emotional expression, and vocal control, teaching her how to shape her voice to match the feeling inside each song. She performed at a small festival in Durham City, stepping under the lights for the first time before thousands of people. The nerves hit her at first, but she found her focus quickly, and by the time she sang her final note, the crowd was on its feet. People who had never heard her name before felt moved by what they heard. Friends and classmates began requesting her presence at birthday parties and neighborhood events, and each small performance taught her how to connect with an audience on a deeper, more personal level. By the age of 12, her dreams had grown far larger than Heselden could contain. She began saving her pocket money, wanting to contribute toward plane tickets so she could perform on a bigger stage. She wrote her goals down late at night, mapping out the future she envisioned for herself. Her mother's constant advice to work hard, stay humble, and never lose sight of her purpose stayed with her through every step of her preparation. In the summer of 2018, 13-year-old Courtney Hadwin stepped off a plane in Omaha, Nebraska, carrying a small suitcase, a leather jacket, and an iron determination. She had never set foot in the United States before. Her destination was the CenturyLink Center, where she would audition for America's Got Talent. On the morning of the audition, she arrived feeling a mixture of excitement and nerves. Backstage, hopeful contestants practiced in small groups while staff called names at random. Courtney held her fedora hat in one hand and her audition form in the other, took a deep breath, and followed the producers down a narrow hallway onto the stage. The judges, Simon Cowell, Heidi Klum, Howie Mandel, and Mel B, sat beneath bright lights, watching without expression. When Courtney walked to the center of the stage wearing a black leather jacket, white shirt, and dark jeans, silence settled over the entire theater. The band began the opening chords of Piece of My Heart, and at first her voice came out soft and careful. Then something shifted. She closed her eyes, felt the beat inside her chest, and her true power burst forward. Her tone cracked with longing and raw strength. She stomped her foot to the rhythm and moved with the energy of a performer twice her age. Every note carried grit and genuine emotion. Simon leaned forward with his eyebrows raised. Heidi sat upright with wide eyes. Howie covered his mouth in disbelief. Melby tapped her fingers on the table, waiting for more. When the final chord rang out, the theater exploded. The judges rose to their feet and applauded, and Simon hit his golden buzzer, sending a cascade of red light glimmering across the stage. Courtney opened her eyes, reached for her fedora, and glanced at her mother, standing backstage, weeping tears of joy. When asked how singing made her feel, Courtney answered simply, "I love to sing. It makes me feel free." The simplicity of those words touched viewers across the world. Her performance clips spread across social media that same night. By morning, it had surpassed 10 million views on YouTube. News outlets from the New York Times to the BBC ran articles calling her the voice of a teen Janis Joplin, praising her fierce style and extraordinary raw power. Newspapers in her hometown ran front-page features. Talk shows reached out. The Today Show invited her to sing on live television. She appeared on The Ellen DeGeneres Show, where Ellen laughed and attempted to match her gravelly tone. On The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon, Jimmy surprised her with a live drumbeat as she sang a blues classic, and both Questlove and Jimmy praised her passion and control. Throughout all of it, Courtney remained grounded, calling home after every interview and staying focused on the music rather than the celebrity. When the live shows began, Courtney performed Maybe by Janis Joplin on a stage framed by glowing arches and deep red lighting. The crowd rose to its feet midway through the song, and when she finished, confetti cannons burst, showering her in streamers as cheers echoed through the arena. Within 24 hours, her performances ranked among the most viewed clips in the show's entire history. Record labels sent offers for studio time. Merchandise companies came knocking. Through it all, she kept her mother's words close to her heart, that singing existed to share joy, not to chase fame. Then came the night that changed everything. In early October 2018, Courtney joined a small tour with fellow America's Got Talent finalists, traveling by bus from Minneapolis toward Madison, Wisconsin. It was past midnight when their bus approached a stretch of Interstate 94 known for slick surfaces. Heavy rain had been falling for hours, pooling along the shoulder of the road. As the bus rounded a curve, a sudden gust of wind pushed the vehicle toward the guardrail. The driver braked hard but could not regain full control. The bus skidded sideways for nearly 20 feet before lurching to a stop against the barrier. Overhead cabinets burst open, and cases slid from their stowed positions. The sound of scraping metal filled the cabin, followed by a terrible silence broken only by muffled cries and the hiss of rain outside. Courtney had been thrown forward in her seat. She rubbed her forehead where it had struck the luggage rack and stood slowly, checking herself. Her right knee throbbed sharply, and a trickle of blood ran down her temple. Fellow musicians were shaken but conscious. Passing motorists stopped to shine flashlights inside and call emergency services. Within minutes, paramedics, a fire truck, and highway patrol arrived. At St. Mary's Hospital in Madison, doctors confirmed a fracture of the right kneecap and a mild concussion. No surgery was required, but she would need 6 weeks of limited movement and physical therapy. Despite her pain, Courtney's first questions were about how she could safely return to singing. News of the crash spread rapidly. Social media filled with messages of support. Judges Simon Cowell and Heidi Klum recorded get well videos. A GoFundMe page raised $32,000 in under 48 hours. Tour dates were canceled, refunds were processed, and many fans donated their ticket fees directly to her recovery fund. After 2 days in Madison, Courtney flew home to England under medical supervision, and her parents were waiting at the airport to take her back to County Durham. Recovery was slow and humbling. Physical therapy began in a small clinic near Heselden, where her therapist guided her through gentle exercises, bending her knee a few degrees at a time, balancing on one leg for seconds before resting again. Doctors restricted her screen time and phone use due to the concussion, so she filled her quiet hours writing new lyrics. She wrote about facing fear, finding strength, and the healing power of music. She wrote about the pattern of raindrops against a window and compared them to the rhythm of a song waiting to be born. Her family had converted the garden shed behind their house into a small recording studio with a microphone, 2 speakers, and a laptop loaded with recording software. At first, she only hummed to keep her voice tuned without strain. Gradually, she moved to soft covers of songs by Aretha Franklin and Etta James, recording a gentle version of Natural Woman and listening carefully to every note. Neighbors brought food and company. One evening, local singers gathered outside her window and performed a spontaneous concert under a street lamp, their voices rising through the night air while Courtney watched from the porch with tears of gratitude running down her face. By late November, doctors cleared her for light singing, and by early December, she was ready to perform again. She appeared at a charity benefit in Newcastle City Hall, walking onto the stage in a green dress with her knee brace hidden beneath the hem. She opened with a soft ballad written during her recovery, building it slowly until she lifted her voice in a soaring, clear finish. The crowd rose to its feet. She had come back. In early 2019, Courtney returned fully to the spotlight, joining the America's Got Talent benefit tour Stars for Hope in Chicago. She also performed at Girls of Soul, a celebration of iconic female voices held at London's Jazz Cafe. That spring, she recorded an extended play in a Newcastle studio, co-writing 2 original songs, one about overcoming fear, the other about gratitude, alongside covers of Aretha Franklin's Respect and Etta James's At Last. The EP was released on Spotify and Apple Music to positive reviews from music blogs and radio stations alike.